Right fellas, so you'll have seen recently I bought an absolute dream car for me, Escort Cosworth. Fellas, I can't tell you how buzzing I am. But like I say, this was bought as a project. I bought it from Inline-four Racing. It was never bought as a road car. It's got no MOT. It needs a lot of work doing. Fortunately for me, it doesn't need expensive parts. It just needs a lot of time. But before we do anything, I want to get it at least drivable and hopefully maybe even get an MOT on it. But like I say, it does need a lot of work doing, but it's not expensive parts. It's just a lot of time and a lot of effort. If you paid someone to do the work, it will cost you a lot of money. Fortunately, I'm willing to have a go myself in the garage. So first off, let's show you what it needs. So you might also notice I'm using the car ramp in the garage. This car ramp is brand new to me and I'm very scared when I'm using it. I'm worried the car is going to drop on us and squash us. Right, so the first job, what we need to do is, you can see the brake discs are a bit knackered. They look a bit just worn out, you can see there. So obviously we'll change the brake pads as well. And from the underside, the brake pads are even worse. So that's one thing we need to do, change the brake pads, and while we're on it, we'll change the discs. So I've never changed the discs or the pads on the back of a four-wheel drive Cosworth. I've only ever done two-wheel drive. Now I think it's going to be pretty much the same, but let's start by taking the rear wheel off and seeing how we get on. You can see the car is running quite a big spacer on the wheels. The wheels are ET25 and this spacer looks like it's at least 15 or 20 milli. So the first job is to remove the brake caliper and the brake caliper retaining bracket. This is held in place with 4 bolts. We've got new ones to replace these dusty old ones. So you can see these brake pads aren't completely gone, but while we're doing the discs, it makes absolute perfect sense to change the pads as well. So now the brake caliper's off, we'll just remove the brake caliper retaining bracket. This is just held in place with 2 bolts. You'll also notice while I'm taking this brake caliper bracket off, everything's painted red. There's also a lot of parts under the bonnet done. I think one of the previous owners must have got a touch-up pen for Christmas and they've just gone a bit crazy with it. So there's a lot of stuff painted red on the car. So there is the caliper bracket off. So now we move the disc, hopefully with these. So you can see here the discs I've took off, absolutely knackered. These will go at the skip of work and the scrap skip and they'll get melted down and they'll probably get made into like a Dacia Duster or something, do you know what I mean? So they'll at least see some more life in them, just not as a brake disc. Right, so in here we've got our new brake discs, nice and clean. Let's get them on the hubs. Once the brake disc is on the hub, we'll put the brake caliper retaining bracket on. So next what we need to do is we need to wind the caliper back in. It's not like a normal caliper on a normal car where you can push it in. You have to use a special tool. This is a laser tool and these pins locate on the caliper, on the piston, and you actually turn it back in as you push it. So let's figure. So that'll sit on there like that. Wind that down. Then you wind this handle and it pushes the piston back in. It's pretty easy to turn the handle. It might look like I'm struggling a bit, but it's not hard. And once you've fully wound it in, you'll feel the piston come to a complete stop at the bottom. There we go, that's stopped there. So that's fully wound in. Then we've got some brand new brake pads to go on the car, which will sit on there, like that. Right, let's get the caliper back on. You can see all the seals are still good on the caliper, nothing to worry about. Everything looks good, so we'll put this back over, hopefully, without making a mess. There we go. Like that. Once everything's in place, it's just a case of bolting it back up with the bolts what we removed. Bit of copper slip on so they don't rust in place. So once it's all back together, we'll check it's all tight before we'll put it back down. But before we put it back down, I'm going to give the disc and the caliper a clean with some brake cleaner, just so I don't go through a brick wall when I first drive the car. Right fellas, I'm happy with that. It's all back on, nice and tight. So what we'll do is we'll put the spacer back on, like that. Then we'll put the wheel back on the spacer. Right fellas, there is the back discs done. I've also put a new battery on the car. This is, I think, what's been on the battery on the car while it's been sat for 6 years in the fella's garage. So the next job, what I noticed is the wheel has got no play up and down, so the bearings are good. But if I go side to side, that should not be moving like that at all. That should be as solid as it is that way. And when we look underneath, you can see the bottom ball joint has got a lot of movement in it, and that's what's causing the wheel to rock like that. I imagine if, which I haven't, if I drove this car on the roads without an MOT, you would feel that, you would hear it a lot. So we'll change that before we do any driving in the car. We'll start by removing, yet again, the wheels. The car's actually fitted with lock and wheel nut keys, and I'm going to get rid of these. I don't like them, they just cause issues. So I'll just replace them in the future with some normal wheel bolts. Next, let's remove the bottom arm. First job is to remove this 24mm bolt that puts the anti-roll bar through the bottom arm. Then we're going to remove the bottom arm from the lower engine cradle, held in place with a nut and bolt. Then the next job is to remove the anti-roll bar, and these bolts are renowned for being a bit of a pig. For some reason, I don't know if they're in the firing line of the weather, but they seem to rust in place and cause issues on most Cosworths. So you need to take care when removing them. These ones were super tight, or at least super corroded in place, but in the end we managed to get them out after a selection of different tools. Once everything's loose from the car, we can then gently remove the anti-roll bar. So you can see there, it's off the bottom arm. You can feel that's knotted, but you can see these are adjustable as well in the middle, so you can make these longer to adjust, I don't know what it's called, camber, is it your camber? You can see they're all polybushed, but unfortunately that end is knackered. I think you can replace that, but to be honest, I've got some standard ones, so I'll show you what I've bought to replace these. Right, so this is what we've bought to replace the one that's knackered. If we look on the floor, hopefully they're near enough the same, well they are the same length I think. So hopefully the wheel shouldn't move much in the arch. So we've got one bottom arm off, I'll get the other one off. Right fellas, so you might have seen when I removed the anti-roll bar, this bracket on here, the threads go into, like in here on the car, and there's like a captive nut welded on there. And what happens is sometimes when you take these out, they snap the captive nut that's welded in there. So you can see they're a bit tight, so what I'm going to do is I've got a tap, and I'm going to run this tap down and clean the threads out, fill this full of grease for when I refit it. So hopefully next time it just comes out nice and easy, and I don't snap the nut off or damage anything, because to be honest, when you look, it looks like it's actually been repaired before. It looks like it's got some helicoils in, so it looks like someone's actually stripped the thread at one point and fixed it. But like I say, I'm going to run the tap down, clean the threads up, so next time it should come out nice and easy. So for the tap, I've just put a little bit of grease on the end so it goes in nice and easy, and we'll just wind that in. Right, so with a bit of grease in, we'll just wind the tap in nice and easy. Feel it there, biting on something. There's obviously something in the threads there that's stopping that tap. I made it tight, so hopefully we'll just be able to cut whatever it is off with the tap. What a tap does is it actually cuts a thread. So what we're doing is we're cutting a nice thread, or at least removing the high spots of the damaged thread. There we go, I think that might be through there now. Put my drill on and we'll whiz that out. Then in there now, we should have a nice good thread for when we put the bolt back in. So we'll just do the one above. As you can see, that's just gone in, no bother, by hand. Now that all the threads are cleaned up, that should hopefully all go back together, no bother. So what we'll do is we'll get the bottom arms and we'll start reassembling it. I've got a feeling it might be a bit of a pain with the anti-roll bar, because we might have to bend the arms in. We'll figure it out. Got no other choice, have we? So with this new ball joint, I'm not sure if it's meant to be greased, but I'm going to put some grease on just for my own peace of mind. Like I say, I don't know if it's meant to be greased, but I'm going to put some on. Now this is a bit where I think I might get some swear words out. What I need to do is I need to get the anti-roll bar on, and I need to get it through the little holes on the bottom arms while still mounting it up, and I think it might be a bit of a pain. But let's have a go and see if we can get the anti-roll bar back on without losing my sanity. And I don't like being under the car like this, especially on the new ramp. So I found the easiest way to get the anti-roll bar on was to get on my back, slide under the car and lift it up like a bench press, put it through the bottom arms and tighten everything back up. So we'll give the discs a quick clean, because I don't know if I've got my oily fingers on them. Just using some brake cleaner. So next we'll put the driver's side wheel on and torque it up to the correct setting of 4 or 5 ugga-duggers. Then we'll go around to the passenger side and do exactly the same, torque it up to the correct ugga-dugger setting. Then before you know it, I've got 2 new bottom arms fitted to my new Escort Cosworth. Right fellas, we've got a big problem with the car. I'm a bit worried at the minute. I'm worried it might be the head gasket that's gone. I've been driving the car, I've done maybe 20 mile, and in the last 2 mile the car has massively started overheating. It is also, I know that looks alright at the minute, but I have took some water out. It's pushed all the water into the bottle that was literally full to the brim. So what I'm going to try is, I think maybe it's a blockage. I hope it's not the head gasket. Hopefully it's a blockage. So I'm going to take the thermostat housing off, check the thermostat's alright, we'll check the water pump, and we'll also check there's no blocks in the radiator, and hopefully we can get this car working again. So like I say, let's start by taking this silicone hose off the radiator and dropping every bit of water out the engine. To remove the hose, you just undo this Jubilee clip, then pull the hose back and it'll drop all its water into the tray I've put underneath. Right, so get this, I've took that bottom radiator hose off, and the expansion tank is still going down but very slow. Look, the lid's off. That should shoot down. All that water should be gone pretty much straight away. So there's definitely, I think, a blockage somewhere on the coolant system. But you can see the coolant looks good. There's no rust. It looks pretty clean. It doesn't look like it's like full of gunk or rust or dirt or anything. So let's start by removing the thermostat. The thermostat is held in place in the thermostat housing, and there's 3 bolts to remove the housing to get at the thermostat. So there is the thermostat out. I mean, it looks alright. So what I'm going to do is, just quickly, I'm going to put that thermostat housing back on, put that bottom hose on and put some water in, and just see if it works. See if the thermostat's knackered. Now you can test the thermostat to see if it's broken by putting it in some boiling water. But let's just put the thermostat housing back on, redo the 3 bolts and connect the hose. So let's drop the car down. We'll put some water in, let it run, and cross your fingers that was a thermostat, fellas. Please, cause I don't want to do a head gasket on it. Let's put some water in here, and then we'll start it up, see if we fixed it. Right fellas, it appears that the car is not overheating. You can see there on the temperature gauge. Now I've got a thermostat, so we're going to head home, put the thermostat in and try it again. So let's drop the water, take the thermostat housing out, put a new thermostat in, connect everything back up, fill it with water and dry it. Let's take it out and see how it goes. I think it's going to overheat. You see that there, that is the temperature gauge. We'll keep an eye on that. It should sit about halfway. If it goes above halfway, we're going to start to overheat. Right, I've pulled over, so we'll check the tank, we'll check the pipes, and we'll see what's hot and what's not. That's cold, the tank. That's hot. That's cold. See, the level is, it's about where I'd set off, to be honest. Temperature gauge is sitting good. So what happens is, it seems to get hot. Whoa, we've just caught out there. So what happens is, if you give it a bit of welly, it does seem to get hot. I don't know why we cut out there, but let's see what happens. Right, we're back in the garage. Let's see what the expansion bottle looks like. So when I got the car back to the garage, it cut out and it wouldn't start. It's never done this before and I don't know why it's doing it now, but that is not the only problem we've got. It's not starting now. Let's have a look. What's going on here? Right fellas, the car is overheating. That bottle is cold. The engine's red hot, like it's in the red. That bottle is cold. This pipe goes from the pump into the radiator. That pipe's hot. Then where it comes out the radiator, that pipe's cold. These pipes are cold. What on earth is going on? So genuinely fellas, at the minute I am at a total loss. My biggest fear at the minute is it's going to need a head gasket. Worst case, head gasket. Best case, I think it's going to need a new water pump. So that's where we're at. Honestly, I'm absolutely gutted. I don't know what to do. Thanks for watching. If you've got any ideas, leave them in the comments. And also, what would you like to see us do with the car? But yeah, again fellas, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.